Happy Friday, everyone. Today's take from the Market Mindset. Today we've got Ben Brockman on across the pond. We've kept him up late. It's a Friday night for him, but we've got Senior Executive Search Consultant Ben Brockman. He's with Mining International.org. He's also got a podcast called Dig Deep, theminingpodcast.com. Very close to one of our shows called Digging Deeper, so we've got that in common as well. But you know what? We really wanted to get a sense of UK markets, what's happening in Europe. He's got a good sense of the mining story over there, the metals, how they're doing, his take on metals and commodities and whatnot. But also, I wanted to add in a way to kind of reach out to younger people that are thinking, well, like, what's the future look like for me? And to let them know, although he is an executive, search recruiter, the myriad of opportunities there are in mining, and how steep a curve there is of requirements of what's needed to make any of the advance of this energy transition in any way. The amount of talent we're going to need, and I want to get that across to young students, young geos, anything out there to know there is a huge market that's coming, and we need a lot of expertise. So he's going to let us know a bunch of different things, and I guess we'll just start off with saying, hey, good evening. Happy Friday.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. First off, it's great to be on, and it's an exciting time for sure in the markets. Definitely interesting in regards to sort of the routes that we're going. But yeah, as you said, we need so many more people to really sort of come up through the ranks. That there's huge skills gaps already. We don't need more going into the next 5, 10, 20 years.
That's the biggest thing that I wanted to get across to people, because I hear so many young people think, like, they kind of look around and they go, where are my opportunities? What am I going to do? And in this scenario, like right here, I know, just say, listen, there's so much, and these are high paying jobs. This isn't just, hey, it's manual labor. It's this, that. No. You can go right out the door very quickly and go, listen, I'm going to get my red seal over here in electrician. Boom. Like, you'll be working very quick as soon as you put in the effort, and the future's electric. So there's no end to the roles you could play, all the way up to, say for you, certain skills that you can develop, hone over time at more of an executive search level.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that just to kind of put something into perspective, we were looking at a very niche skill set of like resource geologists recently. Camborne School of Mines, that's one of the largest sort of inputs into the mining industry of this sort of way. And I think the one of the comments that was made by someone that's quite high up a C, I can't remember exactly who it was, but the comment was like, the last resource geologist to come out of the School of Mines was like the late 90s. There's not been anyone that's come through properly since then. Or at least not to my knowledge. I haven't exactly fact checked it, but I'm fairly certain that they're correct, because the skill set is just not there. And that's just one industry sort of select, as you're saying. There's multiple different avenues that people can go down into mining. It's not just, let's dig here and get some ore out.
Yeah,
it's crazy, absolutely crazy.
Well, that's the thing, is that people don't realize that some might say, well, I want more certainty. Yeah, you could be a desk job. You could sit at a desk and work out models all day, or you could literally hang out in a jungle or hang off a helicopter in a mountain. All these things are possible. If you want to be in the field, working hands-on somewhere very exotic, no problem. That'll happen very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, we work global roles as well. I've just filled a role for a metallurgy superintendent based over in the Philippines for a client, and that's a fly in, fly out, beautiful area, lush rainforest, exciting place, and genuinely nice people to work with as well. And then you look at sort of like opportunities. I've had a guy that I've been talking to recently. He says, look, I'm bored of sun and rainforests and all of that sort of stuff. He's like, I want to go to Alaska and work.
Nice.
You can, right? And that's the extent of the other sort of aspects of the opportunities that can arise. If you're bored in one location, there's nothing stopping you from going to the total polar opposite side and working in a frigid, freezing climate that is so extremely hard, comparable to working in the middle of a rainforest, which has its own challenges as well.
And it is, even if you are an analyst, if you go, say, like if you work for a bank or you work somewhere else, a lot of them will go on site visits as well. So even if you think, listen, I want a little excitement, but I just want to be an analyst,
Yeah.
take them to site visits. And I mean, I've been on ones, and you're hanging out helicopters, sometimes on land that hasn't been touched. I mean, it's very rare nowadays, but I've literally been on some, because of glacial recession, where like 10 people have been there. That's it. And that's pretty wild. And you think that's part of your work day. Like you're flying around, bombing around in giant mountains, seeing the world. And that's part of your job, to then go search out and do some prospecting. And that is kind of, it is glamorous in a way. It's like wow, we're still doing this.
Yeah. And I think on just on the other sort of side of that as well, you look at the negative sort of connotation in regards to mining, where it's scarring the land, and and yes, it does have sort of impact in regards to that. But then you look at the backfill sites, you look at these beautiful lakes that have been made, and all of these stunning areas that are masses of wildlife. Nobody talks about that sort of side of it.
We have the worst PR.
Yeah,
we are the worst. Yeah,
exactly. But there's a lot of care, and people really do have a huge passion about the environment that work in a dirty industry.
Yes.
And these environmental sort of things, to protect environment, you have to have certain machinery to be able to do that. You're not going to get your machinery, and you're definitely not going to get your electrified machinery without mining.
Yes. And everything in life is extractive. So whether it's your food extracted from the ground, whether it's the metals extracted from the ground to get your digital coin, your energy, anything, it all comes from the ground. And it's just a matter of how more efficient and effective and consciously can we get it out of the ground. And that is a big gap between the narrative of, these money hungry, they just destroy the environment and pull all the resources and steal it from people.
Yeah,
that is like a very shallow base level of understanding of economics, finance, international trade, and everything else. But that kind of story it could stick in someone's head because it sounds like injustice. Whatever the reality is completely different. And having the chance, you get to speak to a lot of senior execs. I do as well. Almost all of them, I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, love the environment. They like to hike. They like to be out in it, and they know that they have a challenging job. And they're doing their very best with whatever technology they can to hone in and do it correctly, because they know there's a chance and a spotlight on them right now to really show the world what they can do.
Yeah, I mean, look, an age-old saying that I say all the time is, if it's not mined, it's grown. And that is literally it. There's no two ways about it, and people can't argue the fact of it.
No. And especially if you don't want to do the drilling for oil and gas, and you think that's too dirty. That the only other option is that. And now, how do you find? Because we'll take a big giant step back. We'll talk about what got you into this, what attracted you to it, and also then being from the UK, the narrative. And I don't mean politics as in politics, but just what's the general consensus and the word out there, and the sense of, are we going that direction? Do you sense that, or is it no, we've hit a brick wall? Or so maybe start off with what got you excited about this, because it is a challenging business. And we'll learn a bit about you.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, look, I did legal recruitment for 6 years over here, and it was great. But actually, one thing that I was really passionate about was currency trading, and obviously trading on the foreign exchange. You look at sort of gold, you look at the cryptos, you look at the indexes and the stocks and everything, and actually that sort of stuff really fascinated me, and that's what I started to sort of fixate on. Subsequently, I went self-employed back in February 2020, and 2 weeks after that, we all went into lockdown, and everybody said thanks, but we're not recruiting anyone at the moment. So then I sort of had to sort of broaden my horizons, and I carried on sort of trading and really fell in love with that sort of aspect of the market. Was then approached by my previous employer, and that was when I sort of started focusing on the copper markets for the North America area, and then I started focusing on the precious metals, and then I did battery materials, and then I really threw myself sort of into the industry. Since obviously joined Mining International, I've been here a year yesterday actually, so it's absolutely flown by. and we work very differently. You know, we're not sort of one of these CV shops. We are executive search. We're very focused. We're very detail orientated. You know, we really like to try and sort of stand out as much as we can. And it just gives sort of the best results to the clients as well. But I think having a real passion in the industry, you know, I sort of tried to learn as much as I can in regards to like the engineering aspects. You know, what's the methodology sort of areas, you know, why do we do it, how do we do it? And I think that's quite important to know whilst you're in this sort of job. I mean, look, I never went to university. I've never done any form of engineering in my life. And, you know, massive credit to the guys and girls that do it. It's fascinating to see what they do and understand, you know, like a hydromet process, like solvent extraction or electrowinning. Like it just is crazy how we can get these specific materials out of bits of ore.
It's incredible, especially if you throw in the battery material stuff, where it's like, well, then we're going to add in chemistry as well on top of that. I mean, there is chemistry with heat bleaching and whatnot, but like a next level of chemistry.
And then you look at brine, and you've got people coming over from the oil and gas sector because there's sort of some sort of forms that they do in that area to get the extraction methods out in the lithium brine, which is a whole new layer as well. You know, you've got direct lithium extraction, all sorts of different processes. I mean, the client we were working with in the Philippines, they use biox, which is, you know, a rarity for a number of reasons. They've got it down to a T. You know, they're doing fantastic with it, and if it works, great.
And the thing is, I mean, like, we're kind of joking, but it's true. We are the worst at PR, the industry, and I always liken it to, in Canada, like the milk industry has about 10 times more influence than the mining one. But you can arguably live without milk. You can't live without mining.
It's so important, and people don't realize that. And I think that's something that Rob's the owner of Mining International, and he's the host on Dig Deep, the mining podcast for his side. And a lot of it, he tries to sort of educate people, and I think that's exactly the same as what yourself is doing, you know, trying to educate the market and trying to educate people. You know, all it takes is for someone to stumble across a live stream or, oh, that's interesting, and then actually, you know, they might even learn the odd snip here and there, and, you know, then they can tell their friends, and then actually it's you know, you haven't just sort of reached out to one person, educated one person. You've got multiple different avenues that people are starting to sort of prick their ears up and be like, oh, actually, if we want things to be a bit better, maybe we should, you know, start listening a little bit more, start actually being a bit more active and understanding what we're spouting about, rather than, you know, just bad mouthing an industry that we know nothing about.
Yeah. And I mean, I fell into that trap even at uni, where I thought, oh, these extractive industries, because all they did was just push how terrible it was. I thought, oh, this is terrible, it's awful and all that. And I lived in Alberta, so it didn't take too much effort then to go, wait, I'm going to look into this and actually go to some of these sites and look at what they're doing, see. And, you know, half the people I knew were involved in energy, so as well. Then to go, okay, I'm going to actually look at this, because maybe what I've been told isn't exactly correct. And it's not. It isn't. It's not ever the case. I mean, there's always nuance to things. And what do you think is the overall kind of tenor in the UK right now regarding mining? You know, especially like you've kind of stumbled into it in a very cool way. Do you find that there's people in, like, say, your age group that are like, okay, no, I'm open to the conversation, or once again, they just don't know and they just need to be shown?
Yeah, I think, look, the outlook of it over here, it's not massively negative, but it's also not hugely positive. You know, there's no one really in my age group that was in my friend group or anything like that sort of over the years that have fallen into this sort of area and never shown an interest in it. You know, whether it be people that were incredibly smart and went to university and, you know, did all of the sort of interesting sort of sides of it. But I honestly don't think there is anybody sort of throughout my network of friends, so to speak, that did really go into that sort of side of the industry. So it also begs the question, you know, it's not a cool industry to be in. You know, everyone sort of thinks it as an old timey sort of world, you know, and everybody's flowing over more towards like the digital assets and that sort of side of the world, which is a whole nother ball game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a lot more glamorous, a lot more interesting talking about technology, because you're talking about the end use, and that's always more fun if you think like, let's talk about nuclear energy, or let's talk about battery storage, or let's talk about like a crypto or AI or robotics. Like that's always the fun part where you're like, that's fascinating. The brain just percolates. You get excited. Taking big steps back and go, well, how do we make all that stuff? That's a different kind of mindset, or different brain probably as well. That's like, wait a second, do we have all the materials to make all that?
Yeah, absolutely. And apologies in regards to the stream as well. It's I'm in a very old house, and it's one of those bit windy outside. We're expecting snow, so apologies.
No, it's all good. Well, that's exciting for London as well. So the snow is pretty exciting over there.
yeah, it's a rarity. Although I must admit, I'm not looking forward to it. We're in the middle of nowhere, so getting out and about with the snow is nigh on impossible.
Yeah, you probably don't have a ton of what do you call it? Ford F-150s with what do you call it on the front pushing snow. Not a lot of snow plows.
They don't even come and grit down our road. We're so out of the way, but you know, it is what it is.
Well, every Canadian has snowshoes at their front door, so just
yeah. We as a country do not cope with snow. That is embarrassing, to be honest.
But it's interesting to see someone that is your age group that did stumble across it or fall across it. And I mean, I was the same way, but just a different generation. I never thought I'd be in this, never. It was. My introduction was at Merrill Lynch, like at an investment bank. And I remember thinking this, like, who has any interest in this? This is terrible. Like it's even at that point, I thought this is like for ancient old people. That is really boring. And long story short, I fell into it because I was focused on technology back then. And that's where the excitement was. You're a young man. You're like, I want to follow what the exciting parts are. And it's like in the news. So it's easy to follow and there's lots of information. Whenever it's like super niche, very specific niche, you know, you're like, well, I don't want to be the only person in it. That's, it seems counterproductive, although you really do want to be, if you want to make a name for yourself and build in something that's critical, but you don't think you want to be there. And that was interesting from my perspective, growing up, feeling that way, knowing that way, never thinking I'd be in this, to then having to teach myself to a large extent. And, be open-minded to it, to go, oh, wait a second, holy cow, I didn't even realize this.
Yeah, and it's a view that quite a lot, if you look at like the senior sort of side of the market, you're looking like the C-suite or areas, or people that are like sort of SVP that want to go up into that sort of C-suite area, or even into the board areas. A lot of them, when they're talking about it, they want to leave a lasting legacy at these mines. So actually, some of them are even looking for the opportunities where it's an underperforming asset, or the company is sort of hanging on at like tenterhooks to try and find sort of some way to revive the mine or to extend the life of mine or whatever. A lot of the people that are involved in that aspect really want something that they can leave their own legacy with and do like their last sort of 5 to 10 years in this area. And I think that the passion for that is not as there for a lot of people. And I mean, that we talk to tons of people day in, day out, and the most part are immensely passionate about the industry, and that's why they're in it. The hardest part is sort of relaying that passion to people that are a little bit clueless to the industry, or don't quite understand it, or don't really know what the benefits are going to be sort of moving forward. And I think if we can purvey that to the younger generation, I mean, my kids, I talk to my kids about it all the time. Look at these excavators, look at what they're doing, look at how you get this. And then it's kind of like, right, well, that's what goes into your iPad. That's what goes into your phone. That's how you get a battery, and so on.
That's what I think is so important about, like, even just the education part. I shouldn't say even the education part, let's say with your podcast as well, is that sometimes I get bored with repeating the same message over and over, but we have to, because I've heard it for years. But it's taken a while as well. It's not that easy to just pick it up. You have to get people to hear the message a few times, then to be interested enough to go look beyond and go, well, let me look into this myself, because I don't know, Andrew might be onto something, but maybe not. But once they start looking for themselves, they start seeing, wait a second, how come no one told me this? Yeah, we need all this stuff. And where does it come from? Wait, why do we have to find it here in, say, BC and ship it all the way to China on a big tanker? Like, why is that? Like, so you start getting interested and start to see how the economy in the world works. And then it becomes a bit more interesting. And then this kind of leads into what you look for, which not
Yeah.
to dissuade people. It's a lot of skill sets, very niche. It's very unique individuals, I would say, that you're looking, especially at that high level for a big producer. But there's a way to get there. And not only is there a way to get there, once again, if you are young and want options and think about I'd like a high paying career, this is huge. It's wide open.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. And I think, look, if more people can get interested in the industry or understand sort of like, the ramifications of if we don't do this, what's going to happen. Someone shared something on LinkedIn the other day, and it was really impressive in regards to, this is the materials that we need for the next generation, just the next generation for electrification. We don't have anywhere near enough in regards to mines. We don't have anywhere near enough in regards to reserves. What are we going to do about the generation after that?
Yeah.
What if the world population gets another 2 times the amount of people because it's already grown massively?
Yes.
What are we going to do when we've exhausted these mines? There's not enough money going into exploration budgets. There's not enough money going into that side of the market. People are kind of having that focus on the bits that are producing, the people that are making money, the people that are developing and stuff that are going into kind of production. That's where the money's flown quite quickly and quite well, which is great. That's fantastic that there is money coming into the space in that respect, but there's not enough going into the exploration side and developing mines and stuff like that.
It's interesting too, because you're saying like the growth, and this is a whole other show, but I'll just touch on it. We won't go too hard into it, but I'll get your thoughts. A developing nation, or even China, that uses massive amounts of coal. It's not only like they have a strong desire and understanding that energy is the foundation of a country, and you can bring wealth and education rises. Everything rises if you've got cheaper energy and more abundant energy. It's unfair to say to a country that's developing to go, no more coal for you. And then go, wait, that's not fair. Like, you're going to like restrict us to poverty. We can't afford to have a nuclear plant here. Like that's we don't even have the education system to streamline that. And also, no, well, we don't want you throwing in foreign workers with a foreign property, with a foreign project on our, that doesn't make any sense. So that is likely, I would think, the kind of the overpopulation areas should be getting more energy because that's fair. And to say that, no, you can't have it a certain way is unfair. And those growth rates are going to happen. So even whenever we make big strides and, we're on a dovetail down, certainly in the US, their emissions are down. Canada and UK's are negligible, almost insignificant, that they don't even matter. There is that dichotomy of like, well, how is this going to work? I mean, it seems overwhelming, and that discussion is rarely had as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know sort of masses in respect of that, but I think if you look at the people that are starting to try and reprocess things like the tailings of manganese mines, for example, or some of the like copper mines and stuff, where there actually is, they've missed so much because of the advancements in regards to the processing side, that tailings could actually be quite a phenomenal aspect of missed material. So I think if you're then looking at sort of like the economy and the issues that mining may sort of bring to the offset of what's in the negatives, I suppose, we need to start reprocessing things, and that way it's going to offset even more. You're going to have a better sort of return rate, I would say, in regards to the emissions for the country as well.
It's great too, because I can speak for Canada. I don't know if it's remediation is the right term, but you can go into a lot of these old kind of leachings and tailings ponds and clean them up. And there are companies right now working on like net green, so not using like acids and stuff, that are able to use. Now, it's maybe not on grand scale, but on smaller scale, they're showing this, that they can leach out things. They can do that. And that's very exciting, because then you go, wait a second, hold on. So now we've got net win-win-win. You're getting the metals. You're using green products, and you're also not doing any harm. You're actually cleaning up an old zone that needs to be, remitted or I can't
Yeah.
remember not repatriated. No,
Yeah.
but cleaned up. And
Yeah.
you know, and that's you're going to get a credit for that, you know, if that's an interest in your business model as well. But you're doing right by it. You're going into a zone and into an area, cleaning it up that needs some work, and you're doing it in a green process. And that story is definitely rarely heard as well.
Yeah, but people love it as well. You know, people love the fact that we are looking after the environment. And I think it goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, is that there's not enough knowledge in the industry, and people don't know about those sort of fantastic. So, I mean, you go to some of these beautiful lakes in Canada, that they were mine sites at one point.
Yep.
You know, and people walking through there would never in a million years believe it. You know, and it needs to be talked about a lot more, about the economic benefits, you know, the amount of money that the larger companies as well actually put back into the ground in the country, and, you know, making sure that, you know, all your trees are planted, there's no actual, like, you know, waste that's going to come through the dirt and stuff like that. You know, the ESG sort of aspects of it is huge.
It's massive. It isn't just talk. Like, it isn't like that term greenwashing. Like, the amount of studies one has to do, you know, soil studies, water studies, fowl, insects, like everything is incredible, especially in a very regulated market. And this is why I always say, you want to be mining in your backyard if you're in Canada or else in a modern world, because there's going to be eyes on you. There's going to be no end to the environmental groups like looking and waiting to sue or whatever else. And I think that's a bit annoying, but it's also good because you need to have eyes on people to make sure they're doing things correctly. If it's not, and it's off way in the middle of nowhere in China, that doesn't fit anymore. You can't just go, don't tell me, I don't want to hear about it, but I want my phone.
Yeah, but that's it, and that's that, and it goes back again to the kids, you know, trying to relay it to them. Mine are only young, so they're sort of quite easy to manipulate the mind and sort of help them understand, you know, what's right, what's wrong, and so on. And I think that we live in such a disposable world now. You know, an iPad broke, oh, it's okay, we can get a new one. You know, whereas back in sort of when we were younger, you know, a computer, you had a computer. If it went, that was it. You know, you're not getting another one for a long time.
Yes.
And it's sort of like we're such a throwaway world at the moment.
Yes.
We need,
especially with the technology, like you said, look at the gadgets, the gizmos, and all that. Phones. I'm always amazed. Like, I have a very ancient phone because I'm older and I don't do a ton with it, but I don't need it. But there are people that are like, I need the brand new iPhone each year, and to me, I would just think, I don't understand it, I don't get it. But
no, it's that's it. And I think it's all these new mod cons that kind of come out, you know, and I mean, some of them are fantastic. I was talking to someone earlier, and actually I've got it on my phone, and they were saying, like, language capabilities now is not really too much of an issue, because you can talk one language into a phone and it will spout it out in a different language.
It's amazing.
Pretty good as well. So, you know, we're working a roll down in Chile at the moment, and one of the key things is they have to be Spanish speaking. Well, you know, that's all well and good. I was having a chat with someone that was a potential candidate for it, and he said, well, look, the Spanish speaking I'm going to fall down on, but I've worked with such person for 5 years. He doesn't speak a word of English, and I don't speak a word of Portuguese. We still manage to get by. So, you know, the technology is there to help in that respect. But we don't need a brand new phone every year.
No.
You know?
Well, that's interesting. The consumption rates are, you know, that's an interesting conversation in and of itself. But we're just talking about what we have today, like the requirements just to satisfy us, say the West. That's not satisfying the needs of an India and a China who are growing at alarming rates, who say, oh no, I want a smartphone. Or Africa goes, wait, how come I need a smartphone? And arguably, they should have a smartphone. We're not even talking about, like, when we were hinting at, like, the fun and technology. We're not talking now about AI. We're not talking about the energy consumptions, the needs for that to support that. We're not talking about robotics. That's about to come. Everyone's going to have these robots running around. That's coming, and that's not far off. So to build a robot, the amount of metals and materials you need to build these robots that are going to be coming in, it's like that scale starts escalating very rapidly.
Yeah, and this goes back to the generation sort of gap in regards to, you know, this is what we need for next generation. That doesn't include any of the advancements in technology. It doesn't include, you know, that generation's children or anything like that. And you think, okay, well, if that generation averaged 2 or 3 children each,
Yeah.
you know, the next generation after that, what on earth are you going to do there? You know, we either
It's
have to dig
startling.
deeper,
Yes.
or, you know, venture out somewhere else, either down into the oceans, terrifying because we've barely explored it anyway,
I know.
or we try and mine stuff in space, which again,
Oh,
we're so technologically away
yeah.
from that. You know, we don't have the technology advancements to get up there, and who knows how to do it up there. It's not been done properly.
No, I remember that movie, was it Armageddon, when they
Yeah,
landed on the meteor, and
yeah,
I'm like, listen, guys, what, like, you could just fund some JVs out there that have good targets. You don't have to worry
yeah,
about going in the middle of the Indian Ocean or the
exactly.
Atlantic or on a meteor right now.
Yeah,
That's a fun conversation, like, because you can have engineers, physicists, like, you can have a
yeah,
lot of people talking about, can we do it? And it's like, well, do you have 15 or to 100 times the budget?
yeah, yeah. But that's it.
But
And
that's, yeah, yeah.
where else are we going to get it from, though? That's the other thing, like, you know, and it goes back again to the exploration budgets. There's not enough money going into those sort of areas. And I think, look, it's all well and good, you know, you've got your crypto areas that are making ridiculous gains and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but I think we need to see people being not a bit more responsible, but just being a bit more sort of diverse and going into things that are, you know, going to make an impact on them, on their children, on their children's sort of lives. And that's one of the only ways. And then the other one is just education through the industry. You know, let's start talking about it in schools a little bit more. You know, primary school or secondary school, I don't think I ever heard the word mining in my life, apart from,
No.
you know, someone's dad was a quarry person or something. That's about as much exposure as I had to it. So I had no idea. When you look at sort of like going into college, you know, what do you want to do? Well, I didn't know about engineering. I didn't know about, you know, the sort of advancement in that would have been, I'm going to do engineering for cars.
Yeah.
You know, not I'm going to go and do engineering so I can learn how to do sink shafts in a mine, or planning or schedule it or something, you know, those different aspects that it's just not talked about enough.
And it is like, if you want something challenging, that's like, you know, you can go from, you know, a very basic kind of job in mining to an extremely complicated, like you're saying, like how to divert water up a mountain to get this mine process going. Like,
yeah. And I mean, like, you've got all different aspects as well. You've got high altitude, you've got, you know, there's so many different sort of areas that people go into, and you think an interesting conversation between sort of a project manager / director and the exploration guys. They always say that the exploration guys sort of dull it down of how much of a task it's going to be to get a road up this mountain, or, you know, get water up this mountain to these real remote, high risk areas. And then they need to completely change the budget. That maybe is another thing that needs to be sort of recognized. You know, project directors need to have a bit more of an understanding on the exploration side. Explorers need to understand that actually the logistics of getting a road up here is probably pretty slim.
it's tough when you think of, like, when people see budgets for roads and they go, wait, 100 million for roads? What are you talking about? Like, what?
Yeah.
But you realize, wait a second, like, you have to deal with where you are, getting crews up, say in the middle of, way up in the middle of northern BC, to pave roads. Like, that's a feat in itself.
Big time. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I really think that it's all about sort of talking about it, and, you know, having those kind of conversations with the project directors and the exploration, and then also the CEOs, and they need to understand, you know, right, we're in the middle of, you know, the Rocky Mountains or somewhere, you know, crazy, you know, dangerous sort of territory. They need to understand, right, okay, well, this is probably going to be a lot harder than we were expecting originally.
And you cover from my angle, where it's like a finance geek, is that you have to deal then with the extra problem of, say, permitting, governments and whatnot, and going, I now have to plan this out for 6 years in the future.
Yeah.
So I have to cost things today, assume inflation, assume the cost of money, assume the government's going to be favorable, assume everything goes as planned, make my budget also trying to then think, what's that commodity going to be worth in 6 years? They don't know what's going to be in 2 months. So, like,
And these guys
the
aren't
enormity.
traders. They're not traders. They don't understand sort of, reading a chart. Okay, right, here's the supply, here's the demand. Right, let's have a look at a weekly. Let's have a look at a monthly chart. Where's this commodity going to go? They're not those type of people. Yes, they like reports and they like, the technical aspects of it. But how it's like throwing a dart and guessing,
And it shows that, I mean, we have inflation right now. We have issues in the economies, like around the world. That, to me, sounds like I mean, we need commodities. People should understand now, just as life. I mean, once again, if it doesn't come from the ground as food, we're using it for some extractive methods for everything from our houses, heating, cold, air conditioning, you name it. It's all commodities based. Is that there's not an infinite amount of it. It costs a lot to get out of the ground. And those costs are going to increase, especially once again, when you think about all this cool technology. And that requires, like today, like if someone's to say, if we're really going to give this transition a shot, and I get annoyed because there's a lot of misinformation on both sides. And I'm not being a bummer or a downer. There's so much work that has to be done and focused on a government level to specifically address mining and literally promote it. Like just to go, listen, guys, we've probably sent a wrong message in saying that mining is bad and dirty and terrible because it doesn't look good for us. But I think that message isn't that hard to switch people around if it came from a top down, to explain to them, this is the numbers, this is the reality, this is why we need it, this is why we with like strong industrial capabilities should lead the way, and we should support it then, instead of just let's make it very difficult on them, make permitting impossible, make it cost a ton, and then go, why aren't you doing it?
But that's it. And I think you're totally right. A top-down approach is going to have to be had, and I think and this is where sort of things are starting to uptick in sort of the North America markets. You've had the election. You've got someone that is pro, markets, if you will. You've got some quality people kind of coming into office as well, which is positive for the industry. I'm not going to go into politics or any views in regards to that, but I do think we're going to see positive lights for the mining industries and probably the oil and gas for a little while.
Sure.
Just over the next sort of 4 years, I think that's going to be something that is going to be pushed quite well on the sort of raw materials sort of side of things, and doing a lot more sort of in country. Is going to be key, and I think I'm hoping that that's going to overflow into Canada. It's going to overflow over into the UK sort of areas, and the sort of European sort of areas too. And actually have a bit more of an even spread around the world, so that there's not just one specific country, handling the prices, and they're not manipulated by XYZ. There's a lot more sort of free trade globally, and I think it'll make the place a better place to be.
Well, this is cool. Okay. And this is what I like about mining too. And I'm going to ask you another question here in a second, is that we look at companies that are specifically by region. So like and I won't say who they are, that's not what we're about right now. Like a Finnish company that is looking for lithium, and they have to decide a processing plant that's being built right now and be active next year. You go, wow, I like that, because that's going to feed Europe. They won't be able to do all of it, but you go, that supply chain makes sense directly right there, rather than we'll ship the goods to China, they'll process it, ship it back, we'll make it in a battery plant in Germany. But you go, no, it doesn't make any sense. So same here in Canada, you go, okay, we've got this resource here. It can be turned into phosphoric acid for batteries. It can be sold to cattle and forward. There, those stories make sense to me, and go, those are quick supply chains that are coming together quickly and slowly and rapidly, depending on your viewpoint. But I also kind of wanted in, because you have a background in cryptos and in blockchain. Do you think, like, and we're not going to go too much in the weeds here, but that blockchain technology, do you see that being tied into mining, into commodities, into minerals out of the ground, to track them, to price them, and all that? Do you see that kind of taking shape?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, we're a long way off. And I think, the crypto space, as much as I adore it, it's such a minefield for scams. For it's a dirty place in itself. So, there's aspects of it that, yes, I think, you've got things like the battery passports, for example. So, that your batteries are made with, good quality material, but also ethically sourced materials. You're not getting like child labor from sort of certain areas and things like that. So I think that in that aspect, yes, it would work very well, because you've got immutable ledgers, you've got, areas that you cannot change once it's done. So if it's done properly, definitely a market there. And there's a market there for people to make a lot of money, because it's a relatively untapped space.
I like that too, because there should be a premium for doing things correctly. And I don't care if that annoys people, it hurts. No, it should be done properly. And because I know that almost everybody I've ever talked to in this space, they want to do things right, do it correctly, help the environment. And if they feel like they can get, there's some companies that will work in areas where they don't have to. And there's some companies too that are, and Microsoft's one of them. Or Apple. They're in the news all the time because they've got a very progressive virtue signaling front, but they also have zero issues sourcing goods from very troubling areas. And that's a very mixed message as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes to the top-down approach as well. You need the giant corporations to be ethically responsible and show that actually, we're not going to buy your stuff that's been unethically mined. Child labor, absolutely not. And, all of these sort of areas, you've got, there's so many different sort of unethical practices going on. And, it isn't just one area in the world either. There's multiple different areas, and people really don't understand sort of like the slave labor sort of side of things, and that's terrifying for a lot of people.
It is.
So and I think it's sort of swings and roundabouts as well. I think if they sort of started saying, well, no, actually we're not gonna, it'll be a deterrent for a start, I suppose. But then also actually your mid tiers are going to be like, right, well, we really need to make sure that we are top tier stuff. We're doing everything by the book. And then that goes to the ledger sort of side of things, and that's where the crypto assets could essentially come in, and utilize blockchain. It's not even about crypto; it's about blockchain and that sort of narrative to be able to have the specific sort of things accounted for properly. People are accounted for properly. It would be a much better space to be in, I think, with that. But we're years off. Years off.
Yeah, it's very. I can see it happening, but it's a monumental thing. I know some companies started off doing that in some small ways, accounting for things and specifically knowing I can trace exactly where this piece of grain came from. That'll come, I think, over time. But I imagine, probably, and we won't go into this kind of conversation, but as more digital assets get accepted, the tokenization, whether it's in video games and over here, once again, we're all still talking mining when we're talking about this. This is all mining. That's even but video games. We're talking mining, and we're not talking Minecraft.
But again, like there's kind of veering off a little bit, but there's sort of aspects where actually you've got like geo mining, where you see. I see an article yesterday, and I just read it because it's something that my lad's into, and it was that Pokemon Go. So like Niantic have actually been geo farming. Everybody's sort of been, stockpiling, right, this is where this camera is, this is where this camera is. And they've created a geo map of worldwide sort of areas just from a game. Wow. Now, again, that can go into the crypto space, but then that can also go into the mining space. Imagine having your kind of like your 3D modeling aspects of it, but then actually being able to utilize that on a phone, and that then leads onto the blockchain. I could be pitching $1 million idea here for
maybe stop talking
into AI and get done themselves. But, there's a lot of visions where actually it could work very, very well. And you think like, you're mapping out if you're like your underground sort of mines and stuff like that. You've got your 3D modeling, and you've got all of these different softwares. Well, what if they spoke to the other aspects of it? And then what the permitting people are able to sort of log into these things and stuff. I'm probably going off on a tangent, but it's just something that could be huge.
Well, no, I like it too, because does your firm work on, is it more like C-suite, or do you also look at more like the technical computer end? Like, no, we need
Yeah.
we need high tech people, but do you also source out, yes, we need computer models, AI, all that. So maybe tell us about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, look, we can take on any aspect of mining, but I mean, if you came to us and said, look, we need a metallurgy technician, 1 year experience, that's not us. We're here to find your difficult to fill sort of people, confidential, C-suite, very technical in nature. The one that we've been working in the Philippines, that was a metallurgy superintendent. So you're not looking at C-suite, but
it's senior,
very specific
yeah,
sort of area with very niche skill sets. BIOX, it's not a common sort of practice in the hydromet world. So yeah, we tend to sort of focus on the real tricky niche areas, but again, we can help in any aspect. I mean, I've got a lady that's just reached out to me, and she's more towards the medical side of the industry. And I held my hands up and said, look, I've not done anything in this area, but I'd love to help. It doesn't matter in regards to what part of the industry you're in. We will cover it all, but our niche is mining, in whole. So like we don't really do anything like the oil and gas sort of sector, but we're specialists in this area, and that's why we only focus on these areas, because we want to deliver the best quality to our clients and candidates. It's a journey for them both, not just, oh right, here, Mr. Client, here's a few CVs for your role. Right, we go into a lot of detail. We map out a market fully. We're very, very different to your traditional sort of agencies, which I think makes us stand out as well.
What do you see? Like, what are some of the hurdles you see, like today? Like, not only just for you, but like for mining companies. Obviously, employment, finding the right people. That's a huge one right there. But
yeah,
what are some of the other things that you see that you have to face that you're like, oh God, I wish government would make this easier, or this would make it easier? If there's anything. It
always goes back to finance in the space, and that's junior to mids, I would say. I mean, your larger ones that are your Glencores, your Rios, your Barracks, those sort of companies that they're all producing, they've got cash flow. I think the bigger hurdles are, we desperately need this person, we need to pay in stock option, or we haven't got cash flow yet. And that's a big struggle. And I think if you go back to the government sort of aspects of it, more investment into the space. But you've also got the other side of things where you've got these other industries, your crypto industries, that are making ridiculous % gains overnight for people. And then you look at the junior aspect of the industry, there's not enough money kind of going into that. And you've got these people that are high risk investors. They're always going to run to the thing that is going to give them the quickest and most profit. Whereas a junior asset, you're looking at 5 years as a minimum for break even most of the time. It needs to get better in that respect.
Yeah, you made a very good point with the types of people that would normally be interested in a junior wildcatting oil and gas, junior mining type of play, or even like venture cap, small cap, biotech, whatever.
Yeah.
The funds that are geared towards promoting mining are infinitesimal. Like Bitcoin, they have like literally billions they're going to spend on marketing. There's nonstop marketing, and that's obviously going to attract people. It creates volume. It also, like you said, it's volatile, but people are like, I can make money very quickly, and I'm all for it. I'm like I think that's great. And it's great to attract people into something, to get them interested in how do markets work, how to trade. But I like, and you mentioned this earlier, and it really kind of latched into my head, being coming from Merrill Lynch and working in finance and everything else, is that I like that aspect too. I like fast moving markets where you can see and you go, oh, hey, I'm up and it's fun. That's a very, very tiny part of my portfolio. But if we could express to people in that sector and go, this is great. We're excited you're in it. Make some money. Everything's wonderful. Over here, take some of those gains and just throw little bits over here and sit in it for 5 years.
Just cycle it. Cycle your profits. Going into sort of the other aspects of the industry, I've done crypto, I've done Forex, I've done everything for about 8 years now. So I'm pretty well adversed in that. And I do a lot of high leverage trading.
Yeah.
But one thing that we always try and sort of talk about to people in my spaces and, you know, people that I know in the markets is that, yes, high leverage is fantastic, but you need to cycle your profits into spot positions where you're not going to get liquidated. You're not going to lose all your funds if the market goes against you a little bit. And I mean, it took years of me blowing accounts and being stupid and reckless and stuff like that. But it's that understanding of, right, okay, we've made these thousands and thousands of dollars or even millions, depending on, like, you know, what size investor you are. Cycle it into something that you can sit on, or cycle it into something that you think, oh, here's an ISA or something like that that is going to be setting my kids up in 10 years.
Yeah.
Not quite risky enough for me. What else can I put it in? Have a look at the junior mining markets. You know, it's rife for amazing quality people. I mean, we were working with a company called Cabral Gold, you know, junior miner over in Canada. And they've got an amazing asset and they've got fantastic results that are all coming out. You know, it's a real exciting time for them as a company. And they're just not noticed enough.
Yeah.
And, you know, the conferences for people are starting to charge a lot more money. So there's less sort of people going to them that are lower down investors, not to take away from people that are lower down investors. I'm a lower down investor myself. You know, I'm not putting in hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm putting in, you know, a few hundred here and there. That's not going to attract those type of people. And, you know, imagine if you lost 100 of them or 1,000 of them. That's quite a chunk of money.
Yeah. I always like to remind people that the reason why, you know, cryptos and the Bitcoins they're just the old juniors from before. That's all they are. But with that too, and you touched on it a little bit, like when we saw after kind of the run after lockdowns and everything, like 90-something percent, 96% of all cryptos were fraud. So you go, well, that's what happens. And that's like kind of reemphasizes that if you had gotten lucky and you'd ridden it up and made some wins and just thrown it into a precious metal, just, you know what, I'm not even going to take a risk and look at a producer or a junior or a nuclear. I'm not even there yet. I'll just throw it into gold or silver. Like, you would have been doing like exceptionally well.
By miles as well.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the phenomenal run that's just happened on gold over the past year. You know, we've been running really, really well. You know, silver's following. Copper's not doing bad at all. You know, the lithium markets are starting to uptick a little bit. I mean, don't get caught out in the bubble.
Yeah.
You know, oh, here's something new and shiny. Let's jump on that and, you know, ride it up, but then don't ride it all the way back down. You know, as an investor, you need to cycle your profits again and do it in the metals, and then think, right, okay, actually, I've done pretty well in this as well.
Yes.
What else can we go in? You know, then look at the junior miners, because you'll probably be a little bit more au fait with what they're doing in the space. If you're interested in it and you're an investor and you're doing the due diligence properly, you'll do very well. And it won't take that long. No,
it is actually quite fast. I mean, you can argue that the crypto, because how new it was, that has made a lot of millionaires, billionaires, or whatever.
Yeah.
But traditionally, it's been mining. Like, that's when it goes on a run. There's very few sectors that go just totally crazy, because trying to fit the amount of money that's required. Like, if they attempted to fit the amount of money required to do a transition properly, all ships would rise. Even like the god awful projects would go up. Like, I mean, it would just be this massive win, because you're trying to fit all this money into a market that is unloved, kind of hated, not paying attention to, but has tons of bright people, has incredible projects that will get developed. And are there obstacles? Yes, there's lots. A lot of that happens to be you know, kind of permitting and government wise, but that, I think, is changing. Like you said, you know, certainly the new administration coming to the States, the old one understood critical metals, were all for it. They get the green transition. People forget that the new one coming in created the critical metals list. They're going to do it as well. And they've got Elon at the co-helm steering his projects, which are all AI, electric vehicles, electric batteries, solar, and robots. You go, all of that is still the same stuff. Yeah,
nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed.
People. It's just the people coming into office. And you know, I've got nothing against the Biden-Harris sort of campaign and how they've managed things. And they've done fairly well in regards to trying to sort of bolster the markets and such. But I do think that the new people coming in are going to push it 10 times more.
Yes.
So I do hope that there's going to be a nice clean transition, and the industry gets cleaner and better
Yes,
as it grows. And there is still involvement with China. We can't just oust China. There's it never will happen.
No.
What a stupid thing to do. But I think if they can get it right, and they can get the trade agreements right with Russia, with China, and with looking at Russia, it's not a fantastic place, and it's obviously in the news for all the wrong reasons at the moment. But there's a lot of critical minerals in Russia, and
yes,
huge projects over there that we cannot ignore. So
no, I mean everything from, I mean, Ukraine's the breadbasket of Europe. You're talking about phosphate. You're talking about nickel with Norilsk. Like, I mean, uranium because of Kazatomprom in Kazakhstan, and they've sold half of their interest to China. Like, you see all these things happening. The best thing you could do is to de-escalate war, or is trade more, and to settle down a little bit. Let's ease off. And yes, I think there's going to be a decoupling regardless. That's fine, but you can still do it friendly, or at least friendlier than being completely aggressive. Kind of where we're at a pivotal point right now. And I think if people got interested in that kind of why global trade is so important and so critical nowadays, to help soothe things down a bit, I think that would be a net positive as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Well, listen, let's leave you with some last thoughts. What are you looking for? Like you said, you could pick up anyone, niche and all that. But what are some things that people that are out there that are that the criteria that you're looking for, that are sitting at a job, they're like, hey, you know what? I either want to step up the next level of my career, or I'm not afraid to move. Like, maybe it's time to go to XYZ. What would you say to that person, or kind of leave out there? Or if someone's listening and thinking, oh, maybe I should talk to Ben. What are some of the things just to leave in their head that they can go through the resume and go, yeah, I've done that. I've done this. I've done that.
Yeah. I mean, look, key areas that have been quite a large challenge to find quality people in is mine engineering as a whole, and there's all different aspects of that. I think resource geology is crucial, and that is a shortage in the market. Like geotech, geoscience, all of that sort of stuff is a shortage. And then I think exploration, that there has to be more of it.
Yeah.
And people are, to an extent, waking up to it. But I think come January, February, when people have got a lot more money in their pockets, budgets have been done this sort of time of the year, so they're looking at aspects of that. I think there will be a lot more money thrown into it, and I think everybody's going to be looking for exactly the same person at the same time. So yeah,
yes,
mine engineers, geoscientists, or geotechs, or resource geos, and exploration. They're the key areas that I think need the most attention at the moment for development of the industry.
Great. Well, we're going to try to target like different geology groups, some universities and stuff, to try to see if they'll see this as well, so that people can get excited. I've got one of my good friends from high school. His son is now in his final year at Mining Engineer at Queens, and it's like, and it's cool. It's great because I was like, oh my goodness, how did you get into this? And he's saying, yeah, people are coming around because it's thin, but no, they're starting to kind of finally realize, wait a second, yeah, well, there's something to this.
Yeah. And I think, look, if you're a young person considering the industry, it's phenomenal. And that's just coming from someone on the outside in. I'm not even fully immersed in the industry, but I know the positives are there. You get such great working environments and conditions, and it's such an adventure for people. If I could turn back time, I would 100% go and do it. Travel the world, go on all these amazing exploration adventures and stuff like that, different climates, different people, cultures, there's so much to it that would be fascinating. I just wish I knew about it when I was younger.
Yeah. And you've got the extra benefit of being, you are the foundation of all this energy transition. Like, people can't, that's just a fact.
Yeah.
So that you're doing a net good. It's like, yes, you're going to have an excellent personal lifestyle. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be financially rewarding. It's going to be culturally rewarding. But you are that foundation that's really making the rest of everything else happen. And that's got to feel cool.
Absolutely. You're leaving your legacy.
Yeah.
You know, when your kids ask you, what did you do when you were, you know, looking at going into work and stuff, Dad? Oh, actually, do you know what? I was part of the Green Revolution. You know, those cars that you got outside? Well, I founded XYZ, you know, a vanadium redox flow battery was actually
Yes.
my idea or something. You know, these engineers are fascinatingly clever. And I just think, like, how amazing would that be to spout off, you know, what integration you had in the industry at that time and how you left your mark on it, and, you know, what products developed in your experience there, and different new exciting things that come around.
Well, excellent. Well, we really appreciate your perspective and views, and we need more voices like you as well to get the word out all over. And I think that's just what it takes. It takes just reiterating it, reaching out to new people in new markets, and letting them know that there's such a huge opportunity, especially whenever there's so much stress. And I mean, there's so many people out there that they're like, oh my God, the future's so bleak. I don't even know what I'm going to do. And it's like, I can tell you what you can do. Like, and you don't have to be like, you know, a huge brain mining engineer. There's all sorts of roles in here from top down that are desperate, and your day is going to look pretty cool. Like, it's going to be wild. Yeah,
absolutely. Look, I really appreciate your time as well, and Julia, thank you so much for letting me come on as a guest. It's really appreciated, you know, and it's brand new to me as well, this, but it's been a wicked experience.
Excellent. Well, we need more people like you, and we like to let people know that you're out there as well. There's lots of mining professionals that listen and watch that are on our list. And they need to know who's out there if they're thinking of jump and shift or looking for certain projects or anything like that. You can reach out to Ben as well. And we wanted to get that perspective not only from a different region in the world and what kind of the messaging is over across the pond, but also a different, you know, age group, generation, and just like the perspective of what you're seeing out there. And it's really exciting to see it. It's slow moving, but it's like a big iceberg. But once it starts going, it's going to start going well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, look, if people want to reach out to myself, you know, I've got no problems, even if it's just about a conversation about the market, who's doing what's exciting, what do I know about these areas? You know, I've got no problem with having those conversations with people.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Ben. And thank you for spending your Friday night with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad we weren't interrupted by the kids, if I'm brutally honest.
Fingers crossed we did it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good night. Thanks so much, Ben. Bye-bye.
Take care. Thanks a lot.